Down in the southeast, tiny Austin Peay State University was a long shot against Illinois. But when the game of the day was over, the pride of Clarksville, Tennessee waltzed away with a major opening round upset.
It's official. Austin Peay is off to the ASUN. The ASUN is currently at 12 members. Austin Peay will make it 13. Some background info on Austin Peay. It's located in Clarksville, Tennessee, 50 miles northwest of Nashville, where the population was only 11,000 in 1940, and it's 166,000 today. Austin Peay opened in 1929 and was named after Governor Austin Peay. In 1999, an F3 tornado ripped through campus, inflicting $17 million in damages. Austin Peay was Tennessee's fastest growing university in the 2000s, when enrollment grew by 52%. As of 2017, Austin Peay is governed by its own Board of Trustees. Up until 2017, it had been governed by the State of Tennessee Board of Regents. The Governors have been playing football since 1930. They went non-scholarship in 97 and had a brief stint in the Pioneer Football League. They returned to scholarship football in 2006 when the then president cited Austin Peay being the state's fastest growing university as changing the financial conditions in order to reinstate scholarship football. Governors football struggled for much of its history as financial support was tough to come by under the State of Tennessee Board of Regents. But coincidentally, since Austin Peay got its own Board of Trustees in 2017, the fortunes of its football program have changed. In the final 4 years under the State of Tennessee Board of Regents, Governor football went 1-45 with an 0.21 winning percentage. In the first 4 years of the Austin Peay Board of Trustees, the football program has now gone 28-19, a winning percentage of .595. Governors basketball has made 7 trips to the NCAA tournament. The Governors went to the Sweet 16 in '73, losing to Kentucky in overtime. Austin Peay had a famous 87 upset over Illinois, which was the third 14-3 upset, where Dick Vitale said he'd stand on his head if the Governors won and followed through on his promise. One of Austin Peay's most famous players is Fly Williams, who was recruited to Austin Peay 50 years ago by Leonard Hamilton. A brief conference history about Austin Peay. They played in the Volunteer State Athletic Conference, the VSAC, from 47 to 63. And for roughly the next half century until next year, Austin Peay played in the Ohio Valley. When Austin Peay joined, the members were Morehead State, Murray State, Eastern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, East Tennessee State, Middle Tennessee, and Tennessee Tech. Only Morehead, Murray, and Tennessee Tech remain today. Schools who joined after Austin Peay and still remain in the OVC are Tennessee State, SEMO, Tennessee Martin, Eastern Illinois, SIU Edwardsville, and Belmont. Austin Peay's football budget was $1.1 million more than the second largest football budget in the OVC. The ASUN now has 4 football schools with a football budget larger than anyone in the OVC. 3 of those schools, Jacksonville State, Austin Peay, and Eastern Kentucky, departed from the OVC. Austin Peay's men's basketball budget ranked 3rd in the OVC and will rank middle of the pack in the ASUN. The men's basketball budget rank breakdown illustrates why Austin Peay was in a bit of a dilemma. The OVC has 2 schools, Murray and Belmont, that rank in the 100s for a men's basketball budget, but the other 7 schools all rank in the 300s. Austin Peay was in the middle of those 2 extremes in the 200s. So I'm sure they felt that if Murray and Belmont were to ever leave the OVC, Austin Peay would be stuck in a league where every other school had a men's basketball budget in the 300s. Austin Peay's 3-year football attendance ranked 2nd in the OVC, and they'll be joining the ASUN, which has a bigger football culture and more fan support for football. The OVC actually had higher men's basketball attendance than the ASUN, as the OVC was propped up by Murray State. Austin Peay had the perfect travel situation in the OVC, where every member was within a 4.5-hour drive. So to leave such an ideal travel situation, Austin Peay must have felt they had no other option. As to reiterate, only Murray and Belmont cracked the top 300 in men's basketball budgets for the remaining schools in the OVC, and Austin Peay cannot trust Murray and Belmont to stay in the OVC, as Murray would instantly take an MVC invite, and Belmont has a new president from Duke and is expanding as a university, which I'll get to later. So if Austin Peay did not take advantage of this opportunity, they could be stuck in a league exclusively of 300 men's basketball budget schools if Murray and Belmont were to leave. Moreover, Austin Peay's budgets and resources are more in line with the schools who've left the OVC, like Eastern Kentucky and Jacksonville State, than the OVC schools that don't have any other options like Eastern Illinois, SIU Edwardsville, Southeast Missouri, Morehead State, Tennessee Martin, Tennessee Tech. Austin Peay's football budget was outgrowing the OVC as it was $1.1 million more, or 31% more, than the second largest football budget. 5 of the 6 ASUN football members have attendance above 7,500, whereas in the OVC only Tennessee State cracks that. The OVC has 10 and drops down to 9 with the exit of Austin Peay. The OVC is at the bare minimum 6 members for football: Eastern Illinois, SEMO, Murray State, Tennessee Tech, and Tennessee Martin. So with such a dire situation, it's urgent that they add a 7th football school in a hurry. And that's where Western Illinois comes in, as they're the only FCS school who would willingly join OVC football right now. Western Illinois would benefit moving athletics from the Summit League to the Ohio Valley, as their athletic budget would become more competitive in the Ohio Valley. Western Illinois' athletic budget is $8.5 million below the Summit median, whereas it would only be $1.5 million below the OVC median. Moving to the OVC would also alleviate travel for Western Illinois, as they would have no more trips to the Dakotas and Denver. The OVC released a statement as the commissioner was quoted, "We invite other colleges who are seeking this type of conference experience for the betterment of their institutions to contact us. The OVC welcomes those conversations." And what that tells me is that schools like Bellarmine and Lipscomb are not interested, because if they were, there's no way that statement would get released. That public plea raises a red flag that the OVC is extremely limited in who they can get. In my view, Western Illinois and Chicago State are the only Division I members who would willingly join the OVC. The OVC's turmoil of today can be traced back to decisions made 10 years ago, when Northern Kentucky and North Alabama were rejected in November 2011. Northern Kentucky needed 9 of 11 votes and fell 1 vote short. The OVC cited competitive balance as a reason for rejecting Northern Kentucky, as Northern Kentucky had just built a premier mid-major arena for $64 million and was going to have recruiting advantages and a competitive funding model. North Alabama was under the impression that an invitation for them was imminent. North Alabama was averaging above 10,000 football attendance, which was more than every OVC school but Tennessee State and Jacksonville State. With OVC membership dwindling, it's easy to imagine that Murray State and Belmont have wandering eyes. Murray State narrowly missed an MVC invite in 2017, and as I explained in my July 1 realignment predictions video, the dynamics are changing at Belmont. They have a new president from Duke who just started, who I'd imagine would be very men's basketball oriented and will want to elevate Belmont to the highest conference possible. Belmont's enrollment has grown by 44% in the last decade. Their endowment has doubled by $130 million in the last 4 years, and Belmont is opening a school of medicine soon in collaboration with HCA Healthcare. So with the shifting dynamics both in the OVC and at Belmont itself, I expect Belmont to announce a new conference by July 1, 2022. The ASUN is at 13 members, 6 for their FCS league, so it's pretty easy to conclude that the 14th member will be the 7th member of their FCS league. Some assumptions I'm making when making a candidate list are that the school will be public, as each ASUN FCS team is public. It'll be a school where football isn't an afterthought. So culturally, basketball-obsessed schools like Murray State don't fit the profile of what the ASUN is building with their FCS league. SoCon schools are off the board completely, as the SoCon is a fringe top 10 conference in net for men's basketball. I'm only including schools where the ASUN would be the candidate's first preference of realistic options. For example, if Tennessee State were to join a geographically far-flung league, they're joining the SWAC. And the ASUN has to be geographically sensible from the candidate's perspective, unless that candidate needs a life raft, like one of the Southland Louisiana schools or one of the OVC schools. So North Carolina A&T, who emphasize travel when moving to the Big South, where they have an average 154-mile road trip, I don't see A&T giving that up to be a geographic outlier in the ASUN. So the list of theoretical candidates I've come up with, some are reported, some I'm just including for the heck of it, are Southeast Missouri, Tennessee Tech, Tennessee Martin, Southeastern Louisiana, McNeese State, Valdosta State, West Georgia, and West Florida. The 5 D1 schools all have athletic budgets that would fit in the ASUN. West Florida has a very impressive budget for Division II that would only expand with D1 revenue streams. All 5 D1 candidates have an adequate football budget for the ASUN. West Florida and West Georgia have a good base for Division II. And there's little separation between the 5 D1 candidates in their men's basketball budgets. All 3 D2 candidates would need to up their budgets for men's basketball. Here's a budget comparison in graph form. The light blue is football and the dark blue is men's basketball. So when you only look at the football in light blue and the men's basketball in dark blue, SLU is first and McNeese is second. The orange includes all the other sports, however relevant that is. And West Florida has a terrific base for a Division II school. Here's a comparison of self-generated revenue, ticket sales, donor contributions, and sponsorships. McNeese has really separated itself from the pack, and SLU is pretty good as well. And when you look at it in graph form, McNeese looks really impressive. Here's a 3-year rolling average for football attendance, where McNeese really excels. West Florida and Valdosta State do very well at the D2 level. Here's a 3-year rolling average for men's basketball attendance, where McNeese leads the way again. This would be a weak spot for West Florida in SLU. So here's an attendance comparison in graph form, with light blue representing football and dark blue representing men's basketball. McNeese really separates itself from the pack, and being behind 2 Division II schools for SEMO and Tennessee Martin would be a mark against them. Here's the football success of the theoretical candidates. McNeese State has been to the playoffs 14 times. They've won the Southland 7 times since 2001, and they're a 2-time national runner-up. Valdosta State has won 4 national championships in Division II since 2004. West Florida football has only played for 4 seasons at the Division II level, and they've already won 1 national championship and have another national runner-up. McNeese blows everyone away when it comes to football tradition, as their playoff appearances nearly double the other 4 theoretical D1 candidates combined. Here's the undergraduate full-time enrollment and the population of the town. Kennesaw State is pretty big, but otherwise everyone fits a similar profile. And here's the distance in miles from the 8 theoretical candidates to the 13 ASUN schools. This is what could be the fly in the ointment for McNeese State. Is there an average of 750 miles from the ASUN schools? And here's a chart putting everything together. Ticket sales, donor contributions, sponsorships, all adding up to self-generated revenue. Then athletic budget, football budget, men's basketball budget, 3-year football attendance, 3-year men's basketball attendance, FCS playoff appearances, undergraduate full-time enrollment, the population of their town, and their average miles to the ASUN membership. From top to bottom, McNeese State, SLU, Tennessee Martin, Tennessee Tech, SEMO, West Florida, West Georgia, and Valdosta State. The most qualified addition is McNeese State. McNeese really helps elevate ASUN football, as the ASUN has an ambition for their football conference to be a southern version of the Big Sky or the MVFC or the CAA. McNeese has tons of tradition with 14 playoff appearances, 2-time national runner-up, the most fan support. They dwarf all the candidates in football attendance. They also lead all the candidates in self-generated revenue, as well as men's basketball attendance. But the roadblock for McNeese is geography. The closest school is Central Arkansas at 400 miles. Every other ASUN school is at least a 9-hour bus trip. So I'm skeptical that the non-football schools of the ASUN will want to travel to McNeese State. So my theory is they will compromise and add West Florida. West Florida already has a national championship and a national runner-up in 4 years of Division II football. Pensacola has the potential to be a great college town, as the metro area has 500,000 population with minimal competition for the sports dollar. West Florida is under 6 hours from North Alabama, Jacksonville State, and Kennesaw State. There's already 4 Florida schools in the ASUN who I'd imagine would love to recruit the Panhandle. West Florida would add the critical state of Florida to the ASUN football's footprint. And finally, West Florida's $10.9 million athletic budget is already higher than 2 ASUN schools and will only grow and expand with D1 revenue streams.